Welcome everyone to the meeting of the Policy and Finance Committee to be held on Tuesday, which is being held on Tuesday the 6th of December in the Council Chamber in Leighton Road, Harpenden. The Town Council record and film public meetings in the Council Chamber. There are no guests tonight, so we don't have to ask anybody if they mind. I'd like to just go through the agenda. Are there any apologies?
I presume none, Chair.
Mr.
Councillor Canfield's not arrived yet.
He may be late, okay. Are there any members, may I ask if there are any declarations of disclosable pecuniary and or personal interest in relation to any items on this agenda? We will all presumably have disclosures on the budget because it covers everything the town does, and there will be something there. Please make a disclosure before you talk about, if you want to talk about any particular item. Yeah. Anybody relevant must make a disclosure. Yeah. Chairman's report on urgent items. There's no Chairman's report, no urgent items. Public questions? Any public questions?
None received, Chair.
None received. So if we go to agenda item 5, the minutes of the Policy and Finance Committee meeting held on 19th October 2016. Any comments or queries on that? I can sign it as a true record. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on, agenda item 6, which is the minutes of meetings which have been referred to this committee. The first one is the accounts working party, and there is one recommendation from that meeting, which is to recommend to the Policy and Finance Committee that the investments made by the financial officer be approved. Can I have a show of hands, please, on that? Yeah, you start with that.
On this, I just wondered what happened with the maturity date here, 09012017. What happened after that date? It's very close. There won't be another policy and finance meeting.
These will go back to the next accounts working party on the 24th of January.
Oh, I see.
But I'm looking to have that one be paid into the bank because we need the cash to pay get invoices with it.
Can I just have one quick small question? And, you know, if you haven't got the answer, you can email me, Paul, sorry. It was just saying the 6.2 schedule of payments, finance manager reported that bank balance is currently higher than usual as an investment had matured. Just wondered if you could let me know what that investment was, or, you know, why was it higher than usual?
I'll tell you now, actually.
No, I'm just saying that. Could you just let me know?
Please say that.
We had an investment of £300,000 which matured. I needed the cash into the general bank account so that we got payments for invoices, etc. that's coming over the next few months.
So the planned expenditure was just invoices?
Yeah. What we do is we put money in investments, and when they mature, we decide whether to reinvest it or put it back into the bank.
It was just when you were saying it's higher than usual for a planned expenditure, was all. Just wondered if we were going on holiday somewhere.
Okay, any other questions on item 6.1? Okay, the recommendation is the investments made by the RS will be approved. Can I have a show of hands, please? Approved. The Christmas Carnival Working Party. We have received the minutes of the meeting held on 24th of October. Any comments or questions on those minutes? Okay. Moving on, I think we agree that we will receive the minutes, a show of hands. Yeah. Risk Management Working Party received the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of November 2016. Circulating herein. Any questions on that? Okay, can I have a show of hands on receiving those minutes? Thank you. The Youth Town Council to receive the minutes of the meetings which were held on the 13th of October and the 10th of November, circulated herewith. Can I have any questions on the minutes? Any questions on the minutes? No? I believe that you have, Councillor Cally has an item she would like to raise at this point.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. So I know as a committee and as a council we've been looking at ways to re-engage and reinvigorate the Youth Town Council, which as a former member myself I feel really passionate about. It's a great way to get young people involved in democracy and to start being involved in their town and sort of engage with that. And as it's quite obvious, I ended up becoming a councillor out of it, and as did Councillor Jamal as well, who was on it years ago. I think as a result of this, I know recently there's been a slight reduction in membership, which has been unfortunate, but we would like to suggest ideas that the Youth Town Council can get involved with and really stick their teeth into and feel a sense of ownership over, and that they can take a project forward as part of the council. This will not only enable them to have something of true responsibility that they can say and they're really proud of that they've achieved as a result of being on the council, but also a mechanism to encourage other young people to come forward and for the Youth Town Council to become more public. I feel that in order for this to be most successful that we can make it, we should invite councillors from the Youth Town Council to a policy and finance meeting either on the 8th of March or a proposed one on the 14th of June next year, which might be slightly too late because I know that they're starting to get into summer holidays then. It might be difficult, or that even could work well for us to set up something for them to start working on in September. But I think what we should do is invite them to come to us with 3 to 5 ideas that they would like to run as projects in the town. I understand we have, obviously the council, like all local authorities, we have some financial constraints on us at the moment, and when I was in the town council, some of the things we would do would be going to ask for funding from other bodies. So what we'd do is we'd make applications for grants and funding, but one of the things that we, or I discussed with other local people about, is how it might be worthwhile encouraging them to do something that is volunteer-led and sort of encourages sort of like an action group to do something perhaps on Batford Springs, and it's not them doing it, it's them encouraging other young people to get involved and be the leaders of those kind of projects and to be the leaders of a volunteer or a charity project, which I think the idea for the specifics of what it should come to would be one that they should put forward to us, so then we can say, yes, we think that one is the best one for us to go with. But in order for us to do that, I think we need to give them a one-pager that say, really fixed, this is what you can do, and invite, and then say to them, this is the meeting that you're invited to, and give them enough time to come up with some ideas, and use it as an ongoing process to start putting more life into the town council again. So, to sum up, I think we should invite them to a meeting. I think we should have 3 to 5 ideas that are their ideas, that they're able to lead, and we need to be really careful with the way what we can offer, because we can't offer them lots of money, but we can offer them support in terms of our volunteer time and what they can do as well. So,
okay. Questions?
So it's a kind of youth dragons then, kind of good idea. Yeah.
Chair, I have a question. Sounds like a really good idea. Just wondering, if they came to a meeting, would they then would be kind of a steering group? Would they come every so often to us, or would they? How would it work after the first?
So I think because they report into our committee anyway, so we'd be looking at the notes of seeing how they go, and perhaps they should come. That is a really good point. Maybe they should come back 6 months after to say and report how the project's going, because I think although we get those minutes here, for them to feel a real part of the council and to feel connected to what we do, that would be a really good idea and suggestion to keep up that engagement as well.
Okay, any other questions? No? Can we have a vote on whether we should invite the Youth Town Council to present to us in March some ideas on how they can do voluntary work for the town? Agree? Right, Thank you. Right, moving on, well, can I, any comments on the Youth Town Council minutes? No? Have we received them? Yeah, vote to receive them. Thank you. Right. We move on now to item 7, Officers' Report. The first report is the action tracker, which is the decisions we have taken in meetings and when and what is actually happening on it. Can I go through point by point, and if anyone has a question or a comment, could they please indicate? Point 1, point 2, point 3.
Sorry, Jay, can I just interject there? When we get into points 2 and 3, you'll see under the progress some highlighted points, which basically is saying that either we're going to remove it from the action tracker because there's a report on the agenda, or it's gone on to the full plan for a future meeting. So what you'll find is they are actually recommendations on each item that we're looking for members to approve.
Item 4. Item 5. Okay. Thank you. There's no comment, so we'll put that through. The forward planner, the forward work programme, 7.2. You will see that the meetings in January, March and June, these are the items which will appear on those meetings. Any comments on this or any...
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. I would like to propose, based on our previous discussion, that we add onto the 8th of March 2017 a point for Youth Town Council.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? Okay. Thank you for that report. And I think it's been agreed. The pension funding strategy statement.
We've got municipal calendar.
Municipal calendar meetings, okay. The recommendation is that, subject to any comments or observations, the calendar of meetings for 2017-18 be approved and forward to Council in January for approval. I would like to make one observation, which is that could you keep an eye on the district meetings, because they've been moving them around and it's causing difficulty for eligible matters. Okay, any other comments? Questions? Questions? No? Okay, can we approve the and forward the calendar meetings? Thank you, that's one. Okay, a wonderful world of pensions. The recommendation is that we review the funding strategy statement and forward any comments to the clerk that they wish to include in our response. Attached is the funding strategy statement by the County Council for consultation with employees, to all employers. It's fairly lengthy and detailed. First of all, are there any questions of understanding? No? Are there any points anyone would like to raise?
It looks like a very good document, but I couldn't see any reference to employees being able to have additional voluntary contributions, ABCs, which they enable people who've got for a short service to pump up their pension, and it's a good way of saving for people.
Do we offer ABCs?
I'm confident it's part of the scheme. They've got 2 or 3 sort of points that they can in the various scheme. I'm confident that's that. Can you leave me to double check? If it's an issue, then I can raise it.
Okay. Any other issues?
Yeah, actually, I just realised that I'm actually a member of the government pension scheme.
Okay,
Do I have to declare?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, not. Okay. I would like one comment. The recent statistics show that for the first time in many years, the average age at death is dropping. It's been going up for decades. It started to drop. There's a lot of press interest in this and comments. This has not been reflected in the strategy yet. I suspect it's because they're waiting for several data points over several years before they start to reflect it back into the scheme. But I would just like to ask if you could flag that. Yeah. And this is it's across the country, but it's also in Hertfordshire, I understand. Probably because all the women who started smoking in the 60s and 70s. Okay. Right. So, no other comments? No, we don't have anything else we have to do other than make comments. Is this going to go to full council?
No, but it's come here mainly because of the deadline. The deadline for submissions is the 20th of January.
Okay. It might be worthwhile copying it to other councillors.
Okay, well they've had the agenda, so I can email around to see if anyone has any comments.
And that's a good idea, just in case somebody's got comments, if they're not going to be able to comment on some councillors. Right. Right. Point 7.5, the National Association of Local Council Subscription, and that's on page 67 of your agenda. And the recommendation is that the committee agrees to renew the membership of Malkin HAPTC for 2017 to 2018 at a cost of 2991.39. Right, any questions or understanding on this report? Any comments? Can I have a show of hands, please? Do we agree to renew the membership? Unanimous? Right, big one, the budget. You have the joy of having something. You'll have to sit and listen now, because what I'd like to do is to give you an overview of what's happening on the budget. Okay. And right, the top point is council tax hasn't been increased for 8 years. Actually, I think it's going to be 9. I have to check now, but it's not been increased for a long time. But there have been over the years contractual and inflationary increases which have been managed within the budget, and that is everything from contractors' costs to staff costs to pretty much everything we buy has been going up. It's led us to the position now where we cannot sustain not increasing the precept, and if we decide not to increase the precept, we are going to have to cut something from the budget. What's driven this at this point is the withdrawal of funding from St Albans District Council, the general rate of inflation and just contractual inflationary increases, and also the need to review working practices which has been agreed at previous meetings. And I have Carl here tonight to talk about any of this if you wish. Paul can deal with the budgetary aspects, but the general background to it Carl can discuss. On the review of working practices, what we're essentially doing is bringing in place certain things like a bigger focus on safety, on health and safety, a bigger focus on planned maintenance rather than fixing things when they break, and just generally more rigorous management processes and procedures in what we do. It's not to say anything's been done wrong in the past, it's just taken a more rigorous approach.
Proactive, I would say, Chair.
Really? Proactive rather than reactive. And so, a good example perhaps is, at the moment if a flagstone is cutting a bit out of place, we'll leave it until something goes wrong and then we replace it. What we do in future is we walk round and we'd take action on things before they became an issue. And this extends to much of the things we manage are physical items. So we start to take action before when it was so small and before these things became an issue. But that means that you need the people to go in and monitor and act. So you're not just responding to resident comments. The budget that's been put forward also reflects a more long-term view of our finances linked to the 3-year business plan. And that business plan is going to be something that's discussed and agreed at Council. And that will be in place from April 2017. So the next point is there are some growth items alongside the budget, one-off and growth items. The one-off items will all be things which are actually earmarked, and they are things that we have agreed in committees and which have to be funded. And so over the years we've been earmarking reserves for those items. And they are generally reacting they're generally things that we're responding to people asking for it, or groups asking for more money or for specific things to be undertaken. Any growth item funded from the preset are items that are new initiatives to provide added value to our residents. They're actually proactively, as I said, responding to health and safety issues, or they're providing for longevity and future development of our assets. So it's essentially a shift to a more proactive approach. So what is the impact on the budget? Well, the base budget will be an increase of 3.3%, which is £2 per household, which is 4p per week. Yeah. If you look at that in terms of a band D, and you know band D is the middle of the band for tax, that's, I think at 10%, if we increase the budget by 10%, that's £7.32 per annum, which is about 14p a week per household. These figures are based on our existing council tax base. You may be aware, everybody's always complaining about it, the number of homes in Harpenden is increasing year on year. We know there's been about 50 or 60 new homes along the Lower Lytton Road, but everywhere in Harpenden there's infill. Big houses are becoming flats. The benefit to us is that adds to the council tax, it adds numbers, and every year we get a benefit because the number of households increases. Yeah. So we will, when we know what the increase has been, we will reduce the presets accordingly to get the budget. The other problem we have is there have been two things which have caused us a problem for next year. One is we have always had a sum from SADC, but it didn't actually come from the district council, it came from the central government. I believe it's £42,000.
41,000 this year.
41,000, yeah. The government have discontinued that grant, so we have an immediate gap of 41,000. The second thing which has happened is that the district council is facing the same budgetary pressures and inflationary pressures that we are, and they are reacting by changing their mode of service. So one of the things they're doing is going more online to provide service, and they're cutting back their service provision, face-to-face service provision. One of those items they're cutting back on is the provision of the information point at Harpenden Town Council. So that's another 16,500. So if you put them together, there's 57,000 that we've lost out of the budget. Yeah. So that's a relative, that's 5% of our total budget. So there's a big sort of cut immediately. However, I will say that in terms of impact on residents, if we have a higher than if we increase, you have to consider how much we are as opposed to the total tax, and how much what looks like a big increase translates into actual money, which we're asking residents for. Hart County Council is 76% of the tax that residents pay. The District Council is just over 10%. The Police and Crime Commissioner is 9.4%. We are 4.3%. So we are a very small proportion of the tax. And even a fairly large increase in percentage terms at the Town Council is actually a fairly small increase in terms of money. So as we've said, a 10% increase is 14p a week. Yeah. So does that make sense? Does that explain the background to this budget for people? So we'll then go into the budget, I'm assuming that you've all read this, understand it. Before I get into the recommendations, what I'd like to do is to give members a chance to ask any questions of understanding first they may have, and then secondly to make any comments. Now, we're now at the serious end of the budget. This budget is going to go away. Anything we raise tonight will go away and be considered by the officers and will come back to us in January. So this is your opportunity to raise issues which can be looked at. And those comments will be fed into the budget. So what I would say is this is called a balanced budget. On one side you have tax, on the other side you have cost. Any comment about reducing the precepts must be matched by an indication of what you cut to give that level. There's no point saying, I don't want to increase taxes, nor I want to increase taxes. But if you can't actually identify where you would cut the cost, and it's not up to the officers to decide that, it's up to us. Yeah? So we're sat on questions of understanding.
Okay, can I just add a couple of bits to what you said there? The main summary of what Councillor Maynard just rehearsed to you is on page 75 of Appendix 1. There I try to set it out stage by stage, looking at the base budget, implications, and the growth items. So you've got it all together there. And at the bottom, slight benefit of an increase in the council tax that potentially will help us to slight reduction on the percentage that we're proposing to go forward. The second one I'd make is that although we've got the January meeting to reconsider the budget, if members are so minded, you could approve this budget tonight and send it straight to council at the end of January. So there's no variation to it, it will just go straight to council in January. And the third point I wanted to make is that on the growth items, there's one item on PF6, which is Whitehall Park Hall. I'm actually going to recommend tonight we take that out of the list. It's an item that we wanted to do from earmarked reserves, but we've been able to get from our computer suppliers a very good price, almost half of what we put in here. So we wanted to do that ahead in this year's budget.
Okay.
So that would reduce the growth item slightly, but it's coming from earmarked reserves. So it won't impact on the precept figures that you're proposing.
Okay, thank you. Right, members, questions of understanding?
So I just wanted to, because I know the last meeting we agreed that we review and check between 4 and 12%. So I presume that the figure that we've passed 9.7 this evening is as a result of that review within those values, and this is what we feel is going to be the best result for Harpenden. Okay, great.
Chair, yeah. On page 72, paragraph 5.5.1, the wide area car park. My understanding is that the usage of this car park is just the same as the other car parks, and in fact on page 82 it states that the income level for Rydecker is higher than expected, which is that we're looking at increasing the precept for people and we're subsidising the car park.
Well, I kind of feel I agree with you. I think it's perverse that our residents are subsidised car parking for a lot of people who don't live here, and perhaps they should be putting the car parking charges on that. Given that we have a car parking issue in Harpenden, it should be set to match the other car parks, which would then relieve slightly the precept. And maybe what we could do is ask for the officers to prepare a report on this, saying, because one of the things you have to watch is if you increase the price, people might stop using it. Yeah? And if you could give us an indication from, they're saying 70% to 100%, yeah? And I don't know, would people stop using it? Also a breakdown of how many, we offer a number of passes to that car park for people who work in local shops. How many of them there are and how much they cost?
Yes, I can do that now if you want to, but yeah, we can add that into the report.
Okay, we have that in the report,
Yes.
and we could then look at that, and that could be one of the decisions that we pass, that we make here and recommend to council for a final decision. because we have to do anything we can to minimise any impact on residents.
I have another question. Page 69, paragraph 2.1.2, in the Environment Committee, we sort of talked about not including this surge maintenance management expense of £25,000, although I personally think it's a good idea. So the total that we've got of 109,500 includes this £25,000. Yes, I'm happy with that myself. I'm raising it.
Just to remind members that at council it was agreed that be left in, but it was for the clerk to go away and sort of look at the conditions of the agreements, to discuss it with Harpenden Council and the actual contractual arrangements that may come into place.
Yeah.
So just carrying on from there, I wasn't at the meeting and I do apologise. 6.6.2 then, so this is what you're going to do, Carl, so that we're not agreeing that we're going to have surge maintenance management then?
Yeah, that's correct, Chair. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
Basically what council agreed to do was to allow me to continue to explore the opportunity, and so clearly we'll bring that back again to council in January to see where we're at. Key part of that is we set out that expectation would be that we wouldn't put this in place in the next financial year. It would need, if we were to go for it, it would need sufficient leading time, so we would be looking at 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Just to reiterate, we have the opportunity to give residents an aesthetic look to the town. This will not be done by county, because county are only required to make it safe. So that the decision is do we want to do extra.
Like I say, having listened to the arguments on it, I think it's a good thing to do because I think that the town was very, very happy on the previous service that we got from the district. So I just think that it's a small price to pay for making Harpenden look very good.
Look good.
Chair, could I just interject? I'm just conscious that the discussion was had in blue in confidence at council, so just in terms of where the conversation now goes.
Yeah. So if anybody would like any more comments on that, we'll take them after. Okay?
That's what my comment said.
Yeah. Okay, other questions?
Could I just ask for clarification then? When going forward then, it still says like 1.2, it says 4 to 12%, when in actual fact we're actually saying it's going to be 9.7%.
Well, that is the current recommendation, which we can change if we...
Okay, I was just thinking just for clarity.
Yeah. That's what the officers were asked to stay within that band, and they came back with 9.7%.
I'm a bit naughty and go back to virgin maintenance. I'll be careful what I say. Is there some sort of timeline we have to make our mind up on this one? No input, no?
It would be very difficult to say at the moment, Councillor Paul, in terms of it depends on what the next steps are. So I would imagine each council meeting would have a discussion on this and we would set out what decisions need to be taken.
One other small point, I think environment said 40,000 of items are listed, aren't they? That's the town green, council vehicle, play area, that's page 88, 89.
Can I?
35 events, 5, that's...
Yeah, can I, Chair? The two items that the Environment Committee discussed was first maintenance and the horse ride, 14,000, what they recommended not to be included. But the horse ride is coming out being marked reserved. So once we get a scheme together, we will go back to the Environment Committee, say this is what we're going to do and it's the budget to do it. So it's not going to affect the pretext.
I've been a bit pedantic when you say 40,000, it should probably be 40,400, shouldn't it? Because we've got the allotments in environment.
It is now, yes.
It should be 40,400. That's a bit picky.
That's one more question, sorry.
Yeah.
On page 91, EN1, the permissive horse riding, horse ride servicing. I know it's deferred, but are officers going to look at the cost of drainage, or because there was a discussion in the environment committee about whether it should just be repaired or something should be done about draining the area, which might cost more money, I don't know. But it was just to gather more information, that was all.
Sure.
So, yes, Chair, essentially the resolution was made just to defer it. There wasn't any instruction given to set out any further options, but clearly having looked at the conversation and watched it back, I think we need to go away and set out some potential options of how we make improvements to the area. It may be that in considering the cost of drainage, that may be prohibitive to achieving what we want to achieve, and we may come back to the original idea. It may again be a recommendation from officers to say, actually, this is the best option for us to take forward. So we will explore those options.
Okay, thank you, Carl.
I just want to check, are we in the questions or the comments section now?
Got the questions.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, any more questions?
Yes, sorry. Can I go to Appendix 4? Is that part of this report? EN5, Bird Maintenance Management. It is still down here as £25,000, and it's the precept increase. So if we're not going to discuss, if that's not going to be put in the budget, then can that be removed? Would that actually reduce the amount of percentage on the precept that that would go down then accordingly if we take that out now?
Yes.
Would it? Oh, okay. So that it could be less than 9.7% then.
It could be.
Excellent.
But
okay.
if we take it out, we can't take it out now because this is...
No, yeah, absolutely. And then the other one is the EN7, which is the grants, the allotment grants. £400 is going to constitute a precept increase. I don't understand.
Sorry, Chair, Mayor.
Yeah.
The report that went to the Environment Committee from the two allotment associations asked their grant to be increased. In total, it's £400. But that's a general budget, so it's going to be increased on the precept. So that goes in as an ongoing budget, so we can increase the grants to the two associations going forward.
Okay. It just seems quite a sort of a minuscule amount of money in consideration to the the tens of thousands.
It was an item that was agreed after the base budget had been submitted.
Okay.
So
it's already been agreed this?
The Environment Committee have recommended approval of it.
Okay.
But because it's agreed after the budget was sort of put together, I've showed it as a separate item. So
anything which comes in after the original budget goes in as a separate item. It's not agreed, it would go to council. Any item on here could be taken out by council.
I don't wish it to be taken out. It just seems that, to warrant a precept increase on £400, it just seemed quite a minor amount of money to be...
Anything we spend needs a precept increase. We're on above the original base budget.
We've got quite a bit, a substantial amount in reserves, haven't we?
Yeah, but this is
No, that's a different item, but,
This is a year on year. You can't take from reserves to fund revenue items. Any other questions?
There's a point of information about permissive horse ride, which we've talked about. I know when I did Environment Committee for 4 years as chair, I know the sites quite well. Obviously it's being done, but you need to cut down the foliage right overhead, otherwise light never gets into the sun, they never drain or evaporate, but I assume that's being done. Heidi would tell me if I asked her, I'm sure, but it's certainly something we open up. You have to open up the horse riders a bit, get the light in, actually, instead of kill the mud, but at least dry it up as quick as possible. That's not being taken care of, but I thought I'd mention that. That's one way of addressing muddy horse rides.
I think we are fighting, just as a comment, Hertfordshire mud. If you walk a lot in the area, everywhere just becomes a sea of mud from about now till May.
I was going to say, the primary concern for me would be on safety for riders. If obviously it's something that's obviously dangerous, you don't go near it, but if we're looking after something and it gets really a dangerous condition...
But we either have to close it off when it's dangerous or fix it.
back on the horseway, obviously they ride for free. Is there any sort of chance of getting any money from the stables to use it or not?
You'll have to enforce the area to try and find out exactly who is using it.
I assume this goes on in other parishes and towns, greens. Is it something that's charged elsewhere, not here, or?
No, I think it would be very unusual and probably illegal actually, given the bylaws that allow it to happen anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I have visions of every horse having stamped on its side.
Yeah. It is a lot of money for a disproportionate amount of use, in my opinion. I'm not a great horse lover.
Well, it's very few people use it, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah, way of the world.
Okay, right, comments. Well, is there no more questions? No? Right, any comments or issues?
Thank you, Chad. So Appendix 5, EN3, which is the new council vehicle. So in principle agree with the sentiment to get a new vehicle for the town council information, especially if the one we have at the moment is looking to more essentially retain and maintain. My concern is that, say, about retaining that current vehicle in addition to one that we're going to be buying as new, because if we're keeping that vehicle, I'm assuming we wouldn't get very much, it would be a minimal amount we get for it in the first place, and that's probably the reason that we've said we'll keep hold of it. But surely that might then create more costs for us in terms of fuel, in terms of maintenance, if we decide to keep hold of this vehicle when we actually have a new one or newest one that's working and fully capable. So, and I don't see the entire benefit of having two vehicles when we get along with one at the moment, and we might have to end up paying more for the running cost of two than we would for just having this one new one.
Two comments to you, Councillor Kelly. Firstly, yes, there will be a slight increase in cost because you're right with the two vehicles. On Appendix 4, it shows that ongoing cost of £1,000 will be built into future years, so we'll have to build it into the budget going forward. But on the logistics side, the maintenance team currently do need a new vehicle. The workload is heavy and a bit heavy usage. The idea of keeping the old vehicle as spare is for odd and ad hoc functions like the new Comms Green Outreach Officer might go onto the common user function, use that vehicle then. You might use it for the events, odd days during the year. It won't be totally used 100%, it's just there as a spares backup for these types of events.
Any other general comments? Councillor? Okay.
Right.
Yep.
I'll give you a page number, that's good of me, that page 96. I know the Ryder car park was £5,000 down a year, wasn't it? I'm not quite sure what happened. The machines were destroyed or broken into and this sort of stuff. Can it ever happen again? It's quite a big chunk of money.
Yeah.
What's changed since that 5,000 was?
That was there was vandalism and somebody broke into the machines and they didn't work for a while, so we lost the income while they weren't working.
I assume we've got now more new machines and a lot of people use their phones, don't they?
Yeah. An increasing number of people are using their phones. We've considered moving to phones only, but and I know the district will consider that as well. The problem is a lot of residents, particularly elderly residents, don't use their phones for that sort of thing, so it would make life very difficult for them.
On the same bent, one short question. Did we decide not to do charging points, did we not? I know there's one in Bowers Way, isn't there?
Car charging, electrical?
Yeah.
The decision was made not to do it because it was logistical and cost. However, the infrastructure is still there and we will be able to implement it at a later date.
Where is it hidden?
Yeah.
Where is it actually hidden, the actual?
I think it's along the Lower High Street, actually.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Other questions?
Neighbourhood planning, are there any grants available I know there used to be quite a few grants available to sort of try and get councils to engage in neighbourhood planning. Just to think that you could save us some money if you get something from the central government.
I think it's a very good point. I think we should pursue that. Yeah.
So yeah, there are still grants available, admittedly less than there used to be, and we're exploring that. And with the consultants, once we get to the point of appointing them, that'll be a key role in terms of them helping us to access that. In particular for the community engagement activities that we'll need to run for the neighbourhood plan. From, I think maximum we're looking about, potentially that's about £7,500, which is a good sum of money for Spain.
Okay, but it doesn't actually say in terms of the total cost.
No, I mean it doesn't reflect on the consultants' costs, but generally they're to be put in place for the kind of community engagement side of things.
Is there also any help that the district council could give us?
So the district...
Not financially.
Yeah.
Sort of,
So the district council actually have a statutory responsibility to assist us. So they have to give us a named officer who will help us progress our neighbourhood plan.
Any other comments or questions? I have one, which is the Food and Drink Festival, which is no more. I actually queried this, and I'm just bringing it to your attention as a group. The reason it's been left in is we're going to revisit our events during the year next year, and we've left it in because there is a school of thought which says we should be running it. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, I'll go through the recommendations for your
Yeah, can I just, before we do, just bear in mind, particularly some of the recommendations where figures are quoted. I did ask earlier about taking out the Wi-Fi Park call 3,300. So the figures here will be slightly less for that item, where it's talked about the growth items for those.
Okay, if we could bear that in mind, we wouldn't work it.
I will minute the correct figures.
And the verge hardening, that needs to be taken out as well, doesn't it?
What we're charging.
That's in about 3 sections, isn't it? Not verge hardening, sorry, verge sort of maintenance.
No,
That's
that's not
about
taken
30.
out because that's not been decided yet.
We'll leave it into
You have to
council.
leave it in, because if you don't leave it in, you make no decision. Would you rather not do it?
I don't want it in, so
You
I'm against that completely.
You're against.
If you don't leave it in, you can't do it down the road, can you?
Sorry?
If you don't leave it in, you can't.
If we don't leave it in, we can't continue, so we're leaving it in so we can continue the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Right, let's go through the recommendations. We've been asked to run a greedy-based budget for 2017-2018 as set out in Appendix 2, totaling 95, well,
It's correct, it's 959,750.
959,750. And can I just go ahead? Okay, that's been agreed. Considering the greedy growth items are set out in Appendix 4, totaling 109,500 and proposed funding for inclusion in the budget for 27-28. That will change with respect to Wi-Fi.
It'd be 106,200.
Okay, can I, that's 106, 200. Can I have a show of hands, please? Okay. You are?
I'm against that, yeah.
You're against the growth item? Could I ask which growth items, which base budget you want changed and which growth items you want changed?
Well, I'm just really not... I can't square the circle with the amount of money that we've got in investment and, you know, the items now that we're proposing.
Right. Councillor James, are you aware that after next year we cannot increase our, we will not be able to increase our precept more than 2%?
No.
Maybe that was discussed in previous meetings. I suddenly thought you didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
If we do not increase it next year, we have lost our chance of ever increasing it. To increase it more than 2%, from about 2% from next year on, we would have to have a referendum which would cost us 100,000.
Not quite that high. Probably about 20,000.
We'd have to have a £20,000 referendum to increase it by more than 2%. This is the last year in which we can increase the budget.
All right, then, that does make a difference then. Okay.
Yeah, I suddenly thought you might
No,
not.
I've missed a few meetings, so I do apologise.
No, that's okay, because I would have been querying as well, but in the light of that, you either do it now or we don't do it.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what we discussed in the last meeting, that I'm really not completely happy with having to increase the budget by a percentage, but actually with this mind and this government policy we have to do it.
Now I understand. It's all clear to me now.
Yes. Can we go back on would you agree the 2.11 and 2.12
Yes, okay.
in the light of that? So 2.11 again.
I'll quickly interject there. I know it's out of sequence, but wasn't that 2% limit increase, wasn't that a consultation? Has that been finalised?
What we responded to was the consultation on it, so we just went for the outcome of that. But like a lot of these,
So we're saying categorically it will be 2% capped. It may not.
that's the threshold they put in the document.
It may not happen.
It might not
It's
happen.
unlikely it won't. We think it will happen. I was at a conference last week for now, and they were almost saying yes, it's going to go forward.
I just
But
wonder.
we should hear by Christmas. I think is the
I
date.
think egg on face if it doesn't happen, you know.
There's a lot of opposition from this tier governments to it.
Well, not surprisingly.
Chair, can I just add on that? I think it's incredibly likely that this is going to come in place. Speaking to people that I know that are involved in this and involved in the lobbying, it is going to happen. They are going to introduce a referendum. We're actually likely to hear this week now, I understand, because the local government settlement is going to be expected this week. So I would
I think
strongly say that it is going to happen.
this question should be asked, I think, at this point, what's the likelihood of it definitely happening? So based on our figures on,
Pretty probably, wasn't it? I've been following it on the things.
it's normally on a 5-year plan. We stagger the increase, don't we? This time we're going forward.
Yes. If they weren't doing this, we'd stagger it over the bit, but
Chair, could also offer that, in light of the fact I think we're going to find out soon, you could of course agree these recommendations now. It still goes through to council. So of course, if something was to happen and what isn't expected is that actually it's not going to introduce its principles, then there's the potential then to reconsider that if that makes a difference to the decision that councillors have made.
well, what we could actually do, and this is what I'm going to suggest, is we're going to be looking at Lydica Park anyway. The car park, that's 2.1.3. We agree the base budget and the growth items now. We agree that we get a report on Lydica Park. That then gives us a chance to look again in January. If the government has come forward and said, okay, we won't cap here, we can have a rethink at that point. But if they said we will cap here, we just let the recommendation go through.
Yeah.
Would that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, Councillor Jones, you were going to agree 2.1.1, 2.1.2 in the light of that further. Sorry, I didn't say.
No, it's my fault. I haven't been to a few meetings. So.
Yeah. Consider 2.1.3. We're going to consider the level of fees charged at Lydica Car Park.
Can I ask a question before you sign that one off?
Yeah.
I think it's something in the report about if we want to put the fees up, we have to do it by a certain time, don't we?
Yeah.
I was going to ask just for clarity from the committee on this. I take the point you want to bring a report back to us presumably in January. Paul, is that realistic in terms of have we got the information to be able to do that for the 9th of January, bearing in mind that we're coming to Christmas? That's the first question, and maybe me and Paul can have a chat about that offline. Secondly, it's the kind of the process thereafter. So if we wanted to increase the car parking charges, there's two ways in which we can do it. The district council have the kind of the oversight of this. If we are to do it through them, it would take place in November. We could of course look to do that, introduce it before that point in time. However, it's likely then to cost us some money in order for that to happen. So bearing in mind, and we can set this out in the report if we've got all the information ready, bearing in mind that will then have a knock-on effect in terms of what you decide on the budget. So you may want to go ahead with an increase but may decide to do it in November, therefore not incurring us any costs. You may decide not to. course, the other part of that, if you then wish to increase the charges for the next financial year, we will then be looking at an increase in our commercial income, which will then need to be offset somewhere in the budget to say, what are we going to spend that on? So at that point in time, there could be a decision to say, well, okay, if we're going to get an extra £20,000 in, we don't need to increase the precept as much. So just bearing in mind, we won't be able to do both. We won't be able to increase the precept and increase the car parking charges without, I would say, allocating that funding.
That is absolutely fine, because we'll be doing it in the light of not increasing the precept. What we'll have to do is take into account risk on this, because one of the things that might happen is if you put up with the curve, a lot of people either shift to other car parks when it's not so busy, or try to park it legally or illegally on the street.
Can I add one further point to that, just on the point about the figures? I'm sure Paul's got the financial figures. What I'm not 100% convinced we have at the moment is the kind of the usage and any impact it may have on increasing the figures. So that's if I'm not comfortable we don't have that. We've got 2-3 weeks to do a bit of a survey on it. But actually, is this the right time of year to make a judgment of how well used?
No, because it's really busy.
So there is the potential. We'll report back on this. There's potential that we could recommend that actually we don't have enough information on the usage in order to give you the ready information to take a decision on it and understand the impact. So that may be what we can conclude in a report in January, which may mean that actually we have to consider it later on in the year anyway, in November time. So just to flag that, that's a very real risk as to what the report might have to do.
Okay, that's right.
What just said on page 82, it states the income level for Udeco is higher than expected. So
I think that's because of just the amount of parking has gone up, and it's everything, the pressure on everything where people are parking the road. Right, and this is anecdotal evidence. Okay. Okay, moving on. So 2.1.3, we're going to have that report. And can we all agree that? Yep. Okay. We're now going into the detail, and the committee has asked to recommend to Council that the base budget for 2017-18 of £1,069,250, including £1,030,150 to be met from the precept, and 39,100 from earmark reserves be agreed. And this, these figures will be adjusted in the light of what we have been discussing. Can we agree that? Right. The Harpenden Council tax band D, equivalent for 27-18, be set at £74.08, subject to confirmation of the council tax base figure of 13,905, and this is an increase of £6.56 per household per year, which represents a 9.7% increase. These figures will be adjusted in the light of what we have been discussing. Can we agree that?
Can we put that into the recommendation?
We're signing off this amount here, and we shouldn't be, should we?
Yeah.
No, we're not signing this one off. No. No, I don't.
To be adjusted or as adjusted?
To be adjusted.
Or something.
Yeah. So we're not signing off these amounts. Whereas we are signing
We're signing off the principle.
We're signing off the principle rather than the amounts. Yeah. We'll forward to council. But we will be signing off the amounts in January. Okay. Agreed. And really what we're saying is that there will be a 39,100 from earmark reserves and the rest coming from the precept, depending on the work that happens between now and January. Yeah, can we agree that? And that just then flows through to 2.2. Okay. Right, is that it? Anything else you would like to discuss on? No? Okay, if we move to page 93, which is the budgetary control.
the meeting is to just tear everything apart so you can see it from one bit.
Okay, we're looking at the budget for the current year 2016-17, and in here we have the projections for the year end for the different service areas, under this committee, that's the KNF committee, and a review of the budget for the whole council. We've just been asked to note and approve the report. Do I have any questions? Just understanding questions? We've seen this through the year.
Anything you wish to point out we should be noting other than the whole report? Any anomalies, anything strange happened?
No, the main paragraph I would refer to is 4.7, which is itemised as the significant variances we've got this year, or projected this year. The main one being employee expenses due to the sort of vacancies, maternity leave, the restructure, the staff review, restructure's gone through, and the implications of that, and the appointments and so on. But this will be reviewed and come back to the next meeting with a staff figures.
I had a quick question. I think somewhere in the report I spotted that we've had no income from Harpenden Bloom today.
Harpenden what?
In Bloom.
Oh, Harpenden Town.
Surely got it.
No, you spotted that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What's it priced?
Just on that, correct, we haven't had any income in as yet. Ordinarily, we would have had it in by now, but we will still have it in this financial year. Albeit, I'm not expecting it will be the £5,000 figure. It's going to be slightly lower than that.
But it's still out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's kind of, we're just a little bit behind in terms of progressing. And I think the main reason for that is that we've come to the end of the 3-year cycle. So ordinarily it would just roll over and we would get funding, but we're having to go through a new exercise.
The flower bed sponsorship is one of them, isn't it, surely?
It is, yeah.
One of the items.
Yeah, that's what it all is.
All is.
Yeah, it's all around sponsorship of
We
flowers.
don't get any contribution on anything else. I should know, shouldn't I? I'm on Harpenden.
The roundabout and the roundabout.
Yeah.
All round the roundabout.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments?
Just like to say the Christmas nights were fantastic, or are fantastic, so I think that's well worth spent on them. The storage depot, what's going on with that? I might have nodded on this particular one, so do forgive me. 100,000, is it up? Is it up and running, or?
No, John?
Yeah, fine. So storage depot behind schedule, I would say. I mean,
Okay.
behind schedule as of when I inherited it. What we've done is we've revisited the scope, so and the spec of what we wanted to do. And the reason we've done that is because over time, as something like this happens, more and more things crept into the scope. So actually what it already originally set out to do has had much more things to it. So we've had to basically review it to make sure that what we're putting forward is A, the essential stuff we needed to do, B, identify what the kind of the nice to have might be, importantly C, what funding have we got and how is that going to be deliverable in terms of the essential things. So we are setting out the next steps. We gave verbal updates to the Environment Committee last time round. There'll be a project schedule that we set up that will come through committee. I think it will come through Environment Committee. We'll circulate it to all councillors. And what that will do is set out the key next steps. And at the moment we're thinking about what the best approach is because there's a number of different elements to it. So for example, we could engage a contractor to go and clear the site as it is at the moment in order to get it to a baseline for us to then go and do further work on it. Or we could engage our own maintenance team to go and do some of that work. So there's some outcomes we need to get to, but at the moment we're just exploring what the best approach is to get there, and we'll bring it back to committee environment in the new year.
And so I have this point around, so I noticed on the projections that our variance is actually, we've done better than expected. We've had, so I believe in terms of crops we've had £31,350, which we didn't think we were going to, and in total that means with all the staffing costs, I believe, if I'm reading this right, that's why I'm asking as well, it's £48,910. And because I understand some of that, the money that I'm trying to take out the staffing costs because I know that there are separate reasons for that, and that is not really a gain because we're going to be spending that money on our staffing costs going forward. But I just wondered if this money is additional money that we've got as a result of not having to spend as much on other things, are we going to be looking to spend that on other projects? Or is this going towards something that we don't know yet, or we haven't used? Or
What happens if at the end of the year you have money left, is it goes into reserve? And then it's either allocated to specific projects, or it's kept as you have to have 6 months reserve just as a risk. Yeah.
So because I thought we put into reserves as generally anyway, you sort of put it aside as a percentage of savings, don't you? Or
No.
The reserve is just what we've got as. Okay, no.
Reserves is just what you have at the end of the year.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's two areas. One is there are some earmark reserves where it's been specifically unspent. We put it away for or the balance goes into reserve.
Okay, that was a misunderstanding from my part, but
this
that
is
makes
just
sense.
the stage progress report as of when we last did it. So what we're finding is particularly with employee costs, it could be that in Carl's sort of workload, he will review it and say, well, actually we need to put more resources in to get these projects done, that sort of thing. So that could quite change, easily change by the end of the year.
That was more the question understanding than.
Can I just add an additional point on that? So Paul mentioned section 4.7 and 4.6, which shows at this point the point of this report being written, what the underspending of the budget was, or is projected to be, which is 35,330. I would expect that the next time you see this report, that to be significantly lower, because I know there are a number of things that are going to be spent over the next period that will impact on that. There is also a push from me with officers on some of our budget lines where we need to be a bit more proactive, particularly around some of our commons, greens, where we have a clear management plan. And so far this year we haven't quite got to some of the initiatives that we need to, that will impact on some of these budgets. So I would see that figure as coming down pretty significantly next time we see it.
One of the things is you tend to think of the end of the year as being 2 weeks away, 4 weeks away. In fact, it's the end of March. So there's quite a few months left to go.
That's great. I
feel I should know the answer, but I'm sure the chair knows the answer. I assume we're storing our Christmas lights, our nice new ones, somewhere safe.
Yes.
And not in the eaves of the
No, they won't be here.
Is the cost of storage built into the actual annual cost?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. What we hope to do going forward is to keep them in our own depot. Yeah. But it's not been built yet.
That's what I mean.
So it will be sold for us by the contractor to put them up.
Okay. Yeah.
Until the depot is ready.
I should know the answer to that.
Any other questions on this? No? Okay. Can I ask the committee, are you happy to note and approve the report? Thank you, unanimous. Right. We now move into exempt business.